sorry.
Oh, it's okay. No
It's
worries.
it's an MA.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just like I'm basically for the thesis itself, I'm just writing a paper. So I'm
Hmm.
using these interviews as kind of like my database for my
Right.
research. And I'm also like reading stuff, but this is I felt like it was important to get like firsthand accounts from people about what they think. And
Totally.
then my friend and I are also making a short documentary using all the interviews. So we've been filming
That's
a
so
lot of
rad.
them. And then for this, if you're okay with it, we might use some of the audio from this call in the movie. But that we don't really have a timeline for that.
I see.
But yeah, so it's like related to the thesis, but I'm not gonna like present it in May with the paper because I'm sure it will not be
Gotcha.
ready by May. I think it's gonna take
Right.
a long
Right. Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Totally. So you're
Um,
just kind of like in the research and info gathering kind of phase.
yeah, I've started writing a little bit, but I'm also still conducting interviews just to kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
flesh it out. But yeah,
Cool. So, if you like, I can start by introducing myself and my role within ATA.
yeah,
So, yeah, my name is Alex Cruz, and I think you have my last name, but it's yeah, Cruse, all lowercase, and I use any and all pronouns. And I am currently the board president of Artist Television Access as of July 2020. And when I joined in 2015, I started primarily just sort of as a shop floor assistant, as we all do. Sorry, there's a lot of traffic where I am. I'm going to try to navigate.
oh, no worries.
um, yeah, so as you know, through talking to other folks, everything is very horizontal. And so jobs are very, everybody sort of performs every role within ATA. But my first interest was starting with the interior gallery curation. And so I was working with artists both locally and internationally, doing mostly like wall based media, print and projection work. And yeah, I just sort of kept up with programming, and I moved into the volunteer coordinator role a couple years after that, and was helping with onboarding and orienting new volunteers, and also managing the schedule along with Farah, whom you probably know. And yeah, and then sort of still maintaining a connection to that interior gallery. And yeah, that kind of just leads us up to the present. I have been doing curating, and I'm still doing the board stuff up to now. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool. What kind of like initially drew you to being involved with ATA?
So I actually was one of the Valencia Street like looky loos that was just totally drawn in by the event. It was a brand pause show that was happening, which is this expanded cinema noise performance art, and I was completely blown away because that was what I had been seeking out since I had moved to the Bay in 2006. So I was, I've had an interdisciplinary art practice for I don't know, like 20 years or so. And so, yeah, ATA just really spoke to both my passion for sort of organizing at the community level and engaging people who are sort of emerging within their practices. And yeah, so just again, this very like anti hierarchical, left of the dial ethos just really just drew me in both on political and aesthetic levels. So that was my inauguration, I guess. And yeah, they're, as you've probably heard from other folks, it's very welcoming. And so you're kind of brought into the fold right away as a volunteer. And yeah, I just fell in love with it just really quickly. And yeah, never left.
Cool. Um, so when you moved to the Bay initially, did you like have you ever lived, did you live in San Francisco or
No, I've never
okay.
lived in the city proper. So I come from Whittier, California, a small town outside of Los Angeles. But then I moved, as I said, in 2006 to Berkeley. So I was living between Berkeley and Oakland the entire time. And then in 2022, I moved to Santa Cruz to start the film PhD at UCSC.
Oh, wow, cool. Are you still in the process of getting that?
I am,
Oh my
yeah, very
gosh.
slowly,
That's
but slightly
awesome.
surely. Thank
Nice.
you.
Wow, crazy. After doing
Yeah.
my master's, I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going back to school. So
Yes,
kudos. That is
I
awesome.
completely, yeah, thank you so much. No, I skipped the master's part. I just, I did the bachelor's and then took a long break and then decided to re-enter. And yeah,
Nice.
I do have like a lot of existential questions about it, but
Yeah, I know.
yeah. But
Um,
it's, I mean, film is great. So
yeah,
there's that.
totally.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So I guess so you've been at ATA since 2015.
Hmm.
Um, have you noticed anything about like the changing demographics of the mission, or has any of that impacted ATA, do you feel, in any way?
I do, yes. So, oh gosh, sorry, this is like kind of an emotional subject, and I'm sure that people who have spoken to you before, I may be echoing those sentiments. Um, just I guess the G word gentrification, just hit Valencia Street particularly hard. I think the boutiquification of this area as well impacted artist television access in the sense that maybe people who are on the weirdo fringe, as it were, felt a little more alienated in this space. Um, I think it had another effect or like a positive consequence is that ATA becomes more of a haven for those people because of, just sort of like when you're saying shifting demographics, I think it's just capitalism run amok, right? Um, yeah, so I would say that from when I started in 2015, there was a lot more, I would say, just possibility or sense of potential, and that feels a little foreclosed in a sense. Um, yeah, I don't know if this is helpful context, but that's just sort of been, and like I said, like I've been away from the area for the past, I guess, 4-ish years. But when I was on the street, just really seeing uh, the sort of class shifts were really uh, disorienting and disheartening. And yeah, so it just really makes it more imperative for ATA to sort of remain in that on that strip, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Um, Yeah, it is
Yeah,
interesting
sadly
because
true.
yeah, because I've been like on Valencia Street my whole life, and I feel like
Right.
ATA used to not seem so different from the other stuff there. Like it was always like you noticed it because
Yes.
it was like it kind of has this like cool magnetism about it, and there's always like the stuff in the windows. And I remember as a kid like always like noticing it, but it didn't feel like out of place. And now it's like
Yes.
you really notice it. Like it's like, whoa, that place seems totally different from like everything else
Right.
around it. It's so crazy.
Yes. Like ATA, as you're saying, it was like a patch and a really beautiful quilt. That everything around it was different, but it all kind of had the same atmosphere or something. But yeah, I just feel yeah, like I also I didn't say in my initial answer about the sort of changing grant landscape that's correlated with, I think, we could say the tech boom. There are probably a lot of like diagnostic factors, but because ATA is not a place that generates revenue for the city per se, the criteria for grants changed, and that has sort of had a detrimental effect to our operations because we aren't getting as much money from San Francisco as we previously did. We're not able to give stipends, support artists like historically we've always tried to. So I think those are like material consequences for us that are a direct result of, yeah, just sort of like the tech oligarchy that is San Francisco.
Yeah, totally. Wow, that's so crazy. I didn't know about that. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I shouldn't be, or I should just point out there are probably other factors for like why we may have not gotten like a particular grant. So I'm not trying to pin the blame totally on like one
Mhm.
structure, but I think yeah, like you kind of see what I'm saying, that it's like totally systemic.
Yeah, and I think it also reflects kind of like where the city's priorities lie right now, you know,
Right.
which is just,
Precisely.
yeah, which is just, it's not like, and I also feel like that's kind of in this paper. I'm not necessarily trying to like demonize anything or like say
Hmm.
like the city was better and now it's bad or like anything like that, you know? But it's kind of just more
Right.
like how are artists impacted by this big change, you know? And I chose the mission because I'm familiar with it, but also I feel like it was kind of like this enclave for a minute of
Hmm.
like really attracting a lot of artists. And it's, I think it's just true that, you know, if you're an artist, you feel it. You know, it's like it's hard to
Yeah.
be here, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of support. And yeah, it's definitely real.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah,
And I would be remiss not to say that this kind of displacement or this kind of like alienation also has like a longer history, right? Like there's the initial early 90s tech boom, which displaced a lot of Latin folks from Mission, you know, so like the kind of cultural landscape that I'm romanticizing or feeling nostalgia for is also a result of gentrification in a different, you know, an earlier wave. So,
totally,
yeah, so just like trying to think about like what ATA or like how it had a role in like an initial kind of form of whitewashing and how it was complicit, but then how it can also serve as a bridge to these histories and like to rectify them or to provide like some restitution. So that's something else I try to negotiate.
yeah, totally, yeah. That's kind of like the part that I've already written in the paper is kind of about
Mm,
that initial like change and like basically when
interesting.
white people first started moving to the mission and how
Yep,
that kind of opened the door for like everything that's happened since.
that's
Um,
right. Yeah.
but because I think that's a really important thing. And yeah, um, but yeah, it's just
Yeah, I'm
crazy.
glad that that's yeah, backgrounding the kind of contemporary struggle.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it's not really a history paper, but I feel like that the history of the different waves of gentrification in the mission, I think, is a really important part to the whole story and kind of understanding how we got to where we are now. And
Yep.
um, yeah, but cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you feel like ATA is still able to remain pretty true to its original purpose still, even in the midst of all the changes surrounding it? Or do you feel that has changed in any way since you've been there? Or,
I think that that's a really generous question, and it's one that we continually ask of ourselves as an organization. Like, how are we best able to support our mission and uphold our ethos even under these sort of material strains? So I would say short answer, yes. I think that we are still able to, you know, hold true to principles of open access, where people who don't necessarily have an established art career can still get their work on the screen or on our walls, just with an email. I think that we have, you know, just this principle of no one turned away for lack of funds, which to this day we uphold. No one is ever paid, or you know, no, we don't have any paid staff. So I think that the founding kind of, yeah, I guess the guiding principles of ATA are still, they still hold true. But um, I guess, as I was mentioning before, we're like in a more vulnerable position just financially. We're less able to support the artists that entrust us with their work. So I would say that that has kind of like put us in a vexed position. Um, But yeah, I would say on the whole, HA hasn't really shifted in its philosophy since like 1983, 84.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally would agree with that from an outsider standpoint. Um,
That's great.
yeah, that's cool. Also just curious if you like, do you feel like the people that come there are different now than when you started, or like, has that changed at all, or do you feel like it's still kind of like the same general vibe?
Good question. Yeah, I think there's necessarily like the composition of audiences will change as the neighborhood does. But I think there's always going to be a mainstay of, just like old timers who've been coming for decades, especially people who make up Craig Baldwin's audiences on the Saturday other cinema shows. So yeah, they're like the diehard regulars, but we also get a ton of people who are kind of like me, just coming out of curiosity for the first time, and maybe they come back or maybe they don't. But I think you're always going to see uh, an unexpected sort of crowd at ATA.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Do you know much about like the history of it at all? Or
I can share what I do know.
cool.
Uh, yeah, and most of this is just sort of we have an about us and a history tab on the ATA site, or it's
Oh,
atasite.org.
cool.
So that might be worth a look. But Gary Weber and John Martin co-founded. I believe it wasn't called ATA at the time, but it was like a loose gathering of experimental video artists. And they had a storefront gallery in the Soma district of the city. And that I want to say was 83. Uh, and I think that experienced a fire after a short time. And so the 992 Valencia storefront opened in 1987. And I wish I could say all the names of all the people who were involved in that sort of core organizing, but I know Farah joined in the 90s, and I think that's also when Craig Baldwin got started with it. Yeah, so
Cool.
that's kind of like the, yeah, very, very bare bones foundation. But um, I'm sure, yeah, if you want to talk, have you spoken with Suki O'Kane?
No, I have not.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Um, I could talk with her next time I see her. Yeah, I could say if she wants to reach out to you.
Oh yeah, that would be
She
awesome.
may,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. But I would say, yeah, Steve Polta from SF Cinematheque, or the executive director of SF Cinematheque,
Oh,
I
cool.
think also has been around ATA since the early days, or known those people. Um, Sorry, yeah, I wish I had a more encyclopedic
No, no, you're
memory for
good.
this stuff, but
I was just
um,
curious.
yeah, yeah, no, it has I think a very colorful past. So I wish I knew more about the fire uh, and all that, but we also right now are sort of in the process of collecting and evaluating our archival holdings from way, way back. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I think yeah, more histories might come to light with
Yeah,
that.
that's cool. Would that be like available for people to see stuff?
So right now we're in discussion with a couple universities and other institutions about yeah, doing exactly that, like making those materials, like preserving them for students and researchers.
Awesome.
But yeah, I don't know exactly at what stage those conversations are, but yeah, we just did a big move of all those materials to a safer spot. So yeah, I guess stay tuned because that might be super helpful
Yeah,
for
that would just
what you're
be
working
so
on.
cool to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
also. Yeah.
Um,
Um, cool.
Another.
So, oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just was curious. Have you been to the history room of the San Francisco Library?
No.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I haven't been there to look up anything related to like micro cinemas or art spaces in the city specifically. So they may not have what you're looking for. But yeah, if you go just by Civic Center, the main branch,
Uh-huh.
I think it's like the fifth floor or something, and they have, like the whole white gloved archival room, and
Oh,
they may
wow.
have, yeah, like ephemera or some documents that may help.
Ooh, okay, cool. That's good to know. Yeah, I should definitely check that out.
Awesome.
Um, okay. So I just have like a few more questions,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
about
please.
kind of your experiences in the mission. So I know that like you have never lived in the mission and also maybe now aren't here as often since you live farther away, but
Right.
um, do you feel like personally impacted by the changes in any way? Even though, like, I know obviously, like, you're not paying rent and stuff, but more, I guess, just from like if you feel like isolated because of like the changing vibe or anything like that at all.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I was really, really lucky in my situation as a tenant. I was, illegally occupying space, but that made my rent extremely cheap.
Nice.
So that's, you can leave that on record if you want, but
Cool.
I'll just say that yeah, I absolutely just seeing my friends displaced, and this was I think really intensified right after the Ghost Ship fire, where we lost so many of our community members, and then this was sort of used as an excuse to crack down on illegal or less legal spaces. And this made it really impossible for low income, poor, working class artists to stay in the Bay. And so, yeah, that really affected the arts and music scene that I was really active in at the time. This is like early 2017 and the years following. Uh, and yeah, I did, I chose to come to school. Like I wasn't displaced from the area, but I really don't know how much longer I could have stayed. Uh just, working as a teacher. That was my job before coming here. So, yeah, I would say I felt it and saw it, and I see it in Santa Cruz too. And yeah, I'm actually just totally tangentially, but I'm involved in the labor union at my university, and that's like one of our core demands is like tying our wages to median rents in the area. Uh, and that's, I think these trickle down effects are, you know, maybe the epicenter is the Bay Area, but we can see it all throughout the state. Yeah, but I'm digressing. But that's all to say, yes to your question. Um, I did and still do see these effects, even separated by the bay.
Yeah, totally. Um, when you're like, when you come to the mission now, does it feel weird in any way? Or are you ever
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
cool, how
Yeah, I mean
so?
it. Well, it's not weird in a good way. It's like sort of like an inverted mall. Like it just feels like an outdoor sort of promenade. Like it's just like a retail corridor where there used to be you know, there used to be spaces on Valencia not dedicated to overpriced street food and like distressed jeans. So I miss that. Um, it feels like a little eerie that, uh, like to be in ATA specifically, in this context, like it almost feels like we're in a green screen or something.
Yeah.
Uh, so I would also say, yeah, just seeing the class division is really striking and remarkable because there are, of course, working class families that continue to exist and live there. And yeah, so just seeing like the starkness of these divisions, I think in addition to like the loss of culture that we've been talking about is I'll just say disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I would agree with all
Yeah.
that. But it's cool that, I don't know, I'm just so impressed that ATA has stuck around through all of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the people who make up its like core staff of volunteers, I think are all just really beautifully committed to the cause, you know? Like we're all like anti-capitalists who came from punk, you know, pretty much. And, you know, we just love making weird art and supporting others in that. So, um, yeah, it's really great that we have a lot of new folks too coming in that, you know, that are kind of keeping that going. Um, so that's yeah, maybe to say on like a less cynical note that there's definitely still a need for spaces like ATA in the mission, as weird as it might feel to exist in that context. Like there are a lot of people in their early 20s or younger that are just finding out about experimental film, and yeah, it's rare to find a space like ours in general in the Bay, let alone in the mission. So I'm glad we continue to serve that function.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's like really important, and also like a part of this project for me has been talking about like space as like a grounding force for artists and art communities. So I just feel like it's
Yes.
so important. Like, obviously, not everything can stay the same, but places that are able to pretty much stay the same, like, I don't know, I think there's something really important about that. That just helps people feel like, okay, everything's not different or gone.
Right, right. No, I mean, we need this kind of intangible cultural memory. And I think we have spaces, institutions like ATA that serve as material anchors for that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking so on the 27th of this month, ATA is hosting an ATA Lives party, which is like a thank you for all of our fundraiser donors that helped us pay our back rent that we had last fall. And we're doing a mini screening of some Canyon Cinema holdings. And so, yeah, just kind of thinking through like what you're saying, this reanimation of like an older cinematic culture of San Francisco that, you know, whether we lived through it personally or not, we still feel attached to, and just serving as a brick and mortar space for that. Yeah, it does feel important.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's just like tied to so much history, you know?
Yes.
It's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yeah, you should come to the party if you're free.
I would love to. I'm going to be out of town, but I'll let my
Oh, cool.
my friend who's helping me with the documentary, Emily. I'll let her know. So
Yeah,
maybe she can go.
that'd be great. Yeah. But
That's
sorry, did you
awesome.
have other questions? Or yeah.
Um, I feel like that was mostly everything I wanted to ask, unless there's anything that you want to add that you feel like is important to say. But
Oh, gosh, I was like I was in interviewer mode, like gonna plug our sister film spaces,
yeah,
like, but well, I guess I could do that. Yeah, that just to yeah keep film weird and San Francisco, like support San Francisco micro cinemas, and yeah, I really appreciate just like your careful and caring attention to the space and for your questions. And yeah,
thanks. Thank you.
it's been yeah, just really great to get to reflect on what we're doing and why, you know.
Thanks. Yay, that's awesome. Thanks for agreeing to do this. It's been like really nice to get
Yeah,
your
of course.
perspective. So I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I
Yeah,
think it's
well,
gonna help a lot in my paper
totally. Yeah.
for sure.
And yeah, like I said, like I'll try and put you in touch with other people who might have things to share. And if
Cool.
anything I say, you just like listen to it and it needs expanding or clarifying, yeah, feel free to just like give me a call.
Okay,
Um,
awesome. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
totally give my number to whoever. That is
Oh,
great.
sweet.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
I would totally appreciate
will
that.
do. Yeah, yeah. And then, do you have a timeline for this project? Like, how long will you be doing interviews?
So for the written portion, probably just another month. I think like mid April. I feel like I'll probably have
Oh,
to stop. But for the documentary, we definitely don't really have a timeline, so that's much more flexible.
oh, right on.
Yeah,
Oh, great. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, let's chat about that as it progresses.
cool. Okay, awesome.
Sweet.
Thank
All right. Well,
you.
thanks so much, Sadie. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah,
I'll
you
talk to you later.
too. Okay,
Okay.
bye.
Take